It is that time again. Welcome, welcome. You all come on in here. Yes. Welcome, welcome. You all grab your besties, grab your peers. In fact, you may want to even grab your whole team and your confidants. This is the time that we want to help break boundaries. Breaking Boundaries podcast. Who is ready? Who ready? I hope that you all are ready because I am ready for you all. Hello, hello. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome to Breaking Boundaries podcast, your go to podcast that is for personal and professional growth. Really elated, very excited. I am your host, Ruth Mack, your talent development officer. Listen, today we're going to dive deep into a crucial topic. Yes, that basically hampers many from reaching their full exponential growth when it comes to whether their business, whether in their leadership growth, in their career path. Listen, let's remove the band aid. Self sabotage is real. Who can relate and who can agree? How often have you or have we, I'm not going to disclude myself, have we stood in the way, yes, of our own success? Let's explore this together. Who's ready? I want you to imagine this. Like, I've talked to many senior managers and VPs and executives, and this one I'm going to go ahead and title her as Sarah. She's very consistent and excelling for whatever reason. And let me know if you find it might be even silly to even say this, but repeatedly turns down opportunities for advancement. Her fear of not being enough is a classic sign of self sabotage, or even further, her fear of not being accepted. What if they don't accept me? Whether it be a male, a female, or someone who may not identify as a female or a male. Yes. Her fear is so huge. It's a story many of us can relate to. But what makes us high achievers like Sarah get stuck in this loop cycle? Yes. So, right now in the Breaking Boundaries episode, I'm going to break down 5 don'ts. Yes. Stick with me all the way to the end, my friend. 5 don'ts in removing self sabotage to pivot and grow. Go ahead and grab your favorite digital way of maybe doing an iPad where there's a maybe the old traditional way, and grabbing a pen and your notepad, because I'm going to go ahead and get started. Let's go ahead and delve right in. Number 1, let's go. Don't ignore your achievements. OMG. Let me tell you a story about John. John focuses mainly on his mistakes. Instead, he went through multiples of milestones and wins. And in his own way, it's not unique to him, because high achievers, how often have we dismissed our accomplishments as just doing their job? You're basically doing your job. And I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time you actually paused to celebrate your successes, no matter how small or how big? Whereas John may overlook, he maybe is a perfectionist in my opinion, because instead of him looking at his wins, it's not big enough. It's not huge enough. It's not a huge milestone for him to sit and pause and say, wow, great job, team, or acknowledging his team of a job well done. Because when you're a project manager, more likely involves stakeholders. So I want you to reflect on, when was the last time you actually taken maybe the last 3 recent successes at your work? How did you contribute to these victories? Right? So I want you to create what I like to call a win board that visually displays your successes. Now, write down 3 success stories, success within maybe the last quarter or within the past month. How did your unique skills and actions make these things come to pass or actually become possible? And I want you to introduce the win board, and I want you to highlight your benefits, the key takeaways, the values that you were able to really represent within those mini or micro milestones. Is this helpful? Let me know if you're going to strive and challenge yourself. This reminds me of a really great biblical scripture. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Now, some of you all gloss through that that scripture and not really fully indulge or really immerse in it. I can do all things. Yes, you can do all things. Now, second mistake that I really want you to pay close attention to. Don't overthink every decision. Now, it reminds me of a time when I worked very closely with Rebecca. She was a senior director. She was tasked with selecting a vendor at the time for an urgent project. She spent numerous of hours going through the vetting process, weighing the pros and the cons, and second guessing each option. Oh no, I'm not going to go with this one. Oh no, I can't go with this one. I don't think the chief of staff is going to be able to approve this, or just really second guessing herself. How many of you all can relate? Eventually, her hesitation delays the entire project, frustrating not only her team, causing missed opportunities. Now, how many of you all can fall into that same stumbling block of self-sabotage, really that mindset of just following yourself in the loop of being that perfectionist? Now, Rebecca's situation basically highlights a common pitfall that many of y'all maybe can definitely relate as leaders, and it's called analysis paralysis. Are you caught in this loop of over analyzing every decision, no matter how small? Now, I want you to be able to ask yourself and think of a decision that you made so swiftly that turned out well. What guided you? Take some more deeper dive and even action behind this. Practice making small, quick decisions daily so that it can not only just boost your confidence, you then put it into practice. Put it into practice. You become a practitioner, doing it to where now you're creating this muscle memory that I can do this, right? If any of you lack wisdom, let him ask God, which I love to call God. He is so, so good. Going from within, ask yourself. Sometimes we don't even know the right questions to ask ourselves. So we need to go within, meditate, saying, what is it that I need to find myself strengthening more? Where is it? Where did I fall from grace? Where could I very well maybe took a leap of faith and just took practice and really see myself making a decision more swiftly with more strategy around it, but taking action? Are you ready to do that? The third don't. And many of you all could definitely maybe say, oh boy, I think this is the one that I'm going to definitely raise my hand or hit a comment below about. And if that's you, that's okay. I too have been here. Don't surround yourself with negativity. Yes. I'm going to tell you, many people, especially in hierarchy levels in their business, whether you're a senior leader, Alex, for example, is a senior leader that I know very closely, and his strategy, basically his way of thinking, is known to be a very strategic thinker. Now, but his peers often criticize his new ideas. How many of you all, when you burst out to others and be like, oh, I got an awesome idea, and I want to be able to share it with people who you're close with, right? In your circle. And when you pitch it to them, they often want to criticize it. And it tends to dim the light on you, right? You tend to find it to where you're now in this revolving door and prefer sticking to now familiar methods, because when you announce it to the folks that you thought you would confide in, they end up spitting it back at you with, that's not going to work. That's ineffective. As Alex increasingly feels drained and discouraged, guess what? He noticed his innovative thinking starts to dim. It starts to diminish. It starts to diminish, right? Now, how many of you all, like Alex, is experiencing the draining effects of surrounding basically himself with negativity? Are the people closest to you fostering either one or two things, growth or holding you back? Which one? I want you to start to really delve in even deeper and ask yourself the importance of having the right positive thought leaders influencers. It's nothing more than having the right type of circles around you, and how not having it, how great the impact, the negative impact has upon your creativity, has it to where it limits you to even want to go out with confidence. So I want you to start basically thinking, start sharing a story. I want you to be able to practice sharing it with others, and maybe see, because sometimes when you share stories with strangers, for some reason you find it to where they basically tell you for what it is, because they don't know you from Adam or Eve, right? And so I want you to be able to take the leap of faith and start transforming and doing something completely different, by maybe changing your network, by adding new, building genuine relationships outside the people that you may be accustomed to. And I want you to start evaluating your inner circle. Do they mean you more harvest or more harm? And this is the time you want to know, is my energy drained when I'm around them? Or do I find myself inspired and motivated and ready to take action? So that's the time you want to be able to know, am I walking with wise, or am I walking, or am I becoming more wiser or more dimming and finding myself at a plateau because I don't feel like I'm growing, because my circle is definitely not promoting growth, but helping you move your needle backward or staying plateau. Is this, do you see where I'm going with this? Do you see yourself wanting to shift and move and disrupt what your current situation is projecting? Yes. The fourth, don't shy away from new challenges. I want you to start imagining, for example, like Julia. She's a VP and works very, very closely. She loves what she do. However, she basically was offered a role, and I work with high performers who love to pivot. She was offered a role in an emerging department, especially when it comes to the diverse and inclusive DEI. And though excited by the opportunity, guess what? Like many of you all do, she's worried about failing in completely new environment. And guess what? Because given that she's been with her role perhaps at the time over a decade, and going to the familiar unzoned realm, how many of you all? She declined the offer because of unfamiliarity. I don't know if I'm going to be able to adapt, and not taking the leap of faith and discovering that life is all about discovering and really giving yourself the opportunity to just fly out the doggone nest and really exemplify who you are, and do it, and even do it afraid. Yes. So Julia's hesitation to accept a challenge role is a reflection of what? The fear of failure in many of us that we feel today. Now, when did you last maybe look back or look away from an opportunity because of what? You felt uncomfortable? Yeah. Even maybe perhaps speaking with the chief of the staffs that were amongst the panel interviewers, and maybe you felt that for some reason you may have felt some sort of fear or some sort of emotion started to raising. Now, ways, how do you now manage through that? Just, I want you to be able to take a leap of faith and start to identify these triggers. Why are they even here? What's essential for these growth of these fears? Where do they come from? Now, I want you to be able to embrace it and not keep oppressing from them, but really identify and come head on and really identify, why am I feeling uncomfortable? What is creating this trigger of unease? Yes. So I want you to take a few minutes to really understand, and not only that, maybe gathering yourself to get with a mentor, get with a coach, getting with someone who's already pretty much predominantly in the space of allowing you to see it through another different sense of lenses, so that they can help you create a roadmap and developing more of a strategy plan on how to overcome some of these pitfalls. Who's ready? Now, finally, as we're wrapping things up, and I would love, you may even want to go back. I challenge you to go back, because this is part one of what I like to call today, when we talked about self-sabotage and stop it. It needs to stop today, because you matter. What you have right now matters. You can overcome some of these challenges that we talked about. Don't shy away from new challenges. I also even mentioned how to basically don't overthink every decision and don't ignore your achievements. Go back and really fine tune and fully take a full self decluttering and do a self reflection. Am I going in the right path, or am I finding myself falling through some of these loopholes that Ruth is exploring with us here in Breaking Boundaries? Now, the final five don't. The fifth don't let fear dictate your future. How many of you are letting fear basically narrate and navigate for you when you control what's next? However, is it you really controlling it, or is it your fear that's basically navigating? For example, like David, especially if you've been running your own business and you're very seasoned as an executive, dreams of launching his own consultancy firm. Really wealth of knowledge, very full of wisdom, and helped plethora of people in his organizations when working for other organizations. However, yet, yes, the fear of losing, out on maybe stability, number one, keeps him chained to a corporate role he's no longer passionate about. But for some reason, our mind is more comfortable to being in the shame, to staying in the burnout, to staying in somewhere that you're not fulfilled, you're not being able to see the growth, you're not showing up as your best version of you. David's story resonates with many leaders. And I'm sure some of you all maybe probably sneaking in here into the Breaking Boundaries podcast. But in all generosity, what fear have you allowed to dictate your career choices? I want you to basically analyze and really take fear and to start distorting it in your own perception, removing the risk, keeping yourself from situations that no longer serve us. You want to be able to speak and recognize, identify it, overcome some of these pitfalls. Why are these fears even showing up? I want you to be able to take fear and tackle it head on. And I want to invite you, what is the worst case scenario? Have you really assessed when facing fears, what is the reality behind that? What is the worst case scenario? Really taking the pros and cons. Have you fully taken calculated risk? Have you really assessed it? So, well, you know what? I can take the leap of faith and take the curve. What do I have to lose? In 90 days, if I don't like it, I could just go ahead and just candidly take a diplomatic direction, say, hey, I may have bit more than I could chew. Or discover ways and get with a mentor, get with a coach. As you're parallel growing and pivoting in that role, they can help coach you on the sideline. How do you think some of these people are soaring and growing into roles that you could even imagine or think that they could possibly, like, who, and why? Yes, that part. And so that's where you want to continue to really champion yourself, really reassuring you that fear not, because guess what? The greater good is with us. You're not doing it alone. Sure and believe that, but you got to have that belief though. Your behavior has to shift towards your belief and your emotions so you can now become who you're looking to become as that thought leader. Yes or yes? Who's ready to do that? Who's ready to take action? As we're wrapping up, if today's episode spoke to you, don't forget to subscribe. And I really would love for you to follow and also comment. So I want to invite you to the comments, which I like to call the retreat area, where I want to look and review your insights and your takeaways. And do share your journey. It helps us to grow and disrupt the algorithm together. Now, I want you to wait. And if you like this even more, I'm going to even break down who's ready for part 2, because part 2 is going to help you break free from self-sabotage and unlock your leadership potential. Oh, I'm super excited. It's going to be so good. It really is going to help you unveil ways and opportunities to break free from self-sabotage. It stops today though, and we can go even further in making it to come into action, making it come into fruition. And thank you. Thank you for joining us here on Breaking Boundaries podcast. Remember, the only limits that truly exist are the ones you place upon yourself. Let's keep breaking boundaries together. Yes. Until next time, keep striving and most importantly, continue thriving.